Good morning, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Just wanted to share that President Trump yesterday had signed not one, not two, not three, but 4 executive orders. And it's supposed to benefit the American people. I get that. It's great that he's taken some effort to do that, but there's going to be some legal challenges. That's what I expect. I want to give you a quick rundown on what the 4 executive orders are about. Here's the first one. Number 1, there's an extension for the unemployment benefit, but it's not at $600 per week. It's going to be at $400 per week. He said that he's trying to create incentive for the American people to continue working. Number two, there's going to be a quote-unquote payroll tax holiday. Now, don't get the sense that holiday means that you don't have to pay it in the future at all, but payroll tax deferment is what he should call it, or deferral. But it'll start from September 1st until the end of the year, December 31st. And also this applies to people who, the second one is that President Trump signed an EO about providing a payroll tax holiday. We'll talk more about what that really means. The third one is that he's providing an extension of the student loan relief from now until the end of the year. The fourth one is that he's providing a renewal of the moratorium on evictions and foreclosures. And we'll take a closer look at what that actually means. Because remember, when he's having press conferences, it's just to catch the American people's attention. You really have to dig into the detail. And that's the point of this channel. I hope you gain some value out of this. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, please go ahead and do that now. Now let's go into detail about the first one, the $400 per week unemployment benefit. Now you're probably wondering, when are you going to receive this? President Trump never has the answers. He says rapidly. It's going to happen rapidly. Now this is all happening because he says Democrats won't get their stuff together, more or less. But Democrats actually want to keep it at $600 per week. And what they already passed it in the House in what they call the HEROES Act. You may or may not wonder where this money is coming from. It's actually coming from the CARES Act back in May, I believe, when Congress passed that and allocated $150 billion. Now, from what I read, these funds from the $150 billion originally for the coronavirus relief fund was actually allocated to be dispersed to state and local governments, including tribal governments. And it was, of course, for the public health emergency. That was supposed to last them until the end of the year. Granted, there is still $80 billion available, but now President Trump is shifting that money to the unemployment benefits. Now that concerns me because that circumvents Congress's intent. Now let's talk about the payroll tax relief. The people who are eligible are workers who earn less than $4,000 pre-tax every 2 weeks. Again, though, this is a deferral. You're expected to pay this later on, sometime probably 2021. So hold on to some of that money, okay? And the government will want you to pay up in the future. Now, as to the third item, the third executive order in our list, President Trump has signed an order stating that there's a temporary cessation and waiver of interest until the end of the year for any loans issued out by the Department of Education. So keep that in mind. Only the loans from Department of Education, not from your local bank. So please pay attention who your financial provider of your loan is. And again, the government will want their money back. So you'll probably have to pay sometime in 2021. Expect that to happen. Now, moving on to the fourth executive order is about evictions and foreclosures. Now, the executive order was not very specific about it's directing the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development and the Treasury Secretary to determine what are the appropriate avenues to get this done. But that doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. I hope it does for everyone's best interest, but it's not specific. Now, of course, this is a concern for everyone because the moratorium passed by Congress ended July 24th, so that's about 2 weeks ago. Now let's talk about what's not in these executive orders. Number 1, the hot topic of the stimulus check of the $1,200 per adult person. That's not in there. He probably couldn't find a way to reallocate money originally passed by Congress. Number two is the funds for daycares. These were in a couple proposals by the Senate Republicans and the House Democrats, of course, in varying amounts. But that's not something that President Trump has included in his executive order. And number three, there's no funds for state and local services. And that's a serious concern because any money that was available through the Coronavirus Relief Fund from the CARES Act, he's taken that out so they could fund for the unemployment benefit. Now, why is that important? Because he should have let Congress do his job. Sure, I understand they were being slow about it. They keep disagreeing on something. But he's acting as if he's a hero to people as a way to be elected in November. Whether you're blue or red, no president should have the power to reallocate money this way from its original purpose, especially since that money is for the purpose of the coronavirus. Now, I do expect there to be legal challenges on these executive orders based on what I was talking about, that he should not have these powers. If you had any concern about President Obama or President Bush having too much executive power, well, here it is. President Trump's quadrupling the amount of power that they may have tried to exert before. And you probably know President Trump likes to use these type of press conferences or briefings as an opportunity to talk about his own platform, right? I get it. He's the president. That makes sense, especially with the election year. So here are some promises he talked about. Number one, to extend the payroll tax cut. That's a huge concern because that, of course, will affect the increase of deficit, the national deficit, and, of course, take away from government revenue. And ultimately, cutting payroll tax will affect the Social Security benefits for you in the future. He also talked more about capital gains tax cut and also the income tax cut for low and middle income families. I'm concerned because that is what he did when he first came in office. And that was my fear 4 years ago, is that it's only for a certain amount of time and that they're going to try to promise the same thing. And that's their way to stay in office, is because they only have it set for a limited number of years. And they just keep promising the same thing. Yeah, sure, they'll get it passed, but they're going to keep staying in office. I'm not saying President Trump will, because he only has 2 terms, but that's just how politicians work in general. President Trump has continually touts that the economy is great, and that yesterday he mentioned that the number of jobs was historical, the best ever. Now let's take a closer look at the numbers. And I'll have a link at the description below for the Bureau of Labor Statistics so you can take a look yourself. But in July, the number of persons not in the labor force who currently want a job declined by 463,000. Now it's down to 7.7 million people who do not have a job but want a job. And this amount is 2.8 times higher than in February. So I don't know how he's saying that this is amazing. Now, President Trump also talks about random things. For example, he mocked parents who are going through a divorce right now because of pandemic. Why would he need to do that? That's nonsense. You don't want your own national leader to talk about your own family in that way. If you were going through something like that, right? That definitely hits a nerve. That doesn't help in one way or another. Now, one last thing about this press conference yesterday. President Trump ended the meeting abruptly when a reporter pressed him on the question of why he keeps talking about the veterans' choice. Now, if you don't know what the veterans' choice is, it's a law that was already passed in 2014 before his time in office. So President Obama was in office when he passed that. I don't know if it's perfect or not, but President Trump keeps talking about it as if he passed it. And that he started the press conference yesterday saying that he just got something done on it. So it's quite confusing. So please do a fact check on that. Fact check me if you want. It passed in 2014. The Veterans Choice Program allows veterans to go to a different medical community provider so that they don't have to wait for an appointment at the veterans hospitals, because there's plenty of stories that they've had to wait especially more than 30 days, sometimes months. So again, this was passed in 2014, and think to yourself, who was president at that time? And you can check the whitehouse.gov website. I put a link in the description box with all the different executive orders. and I'll put one specific to the page for his executive orders in general that lists all of them. You won't see one about the Veterans Choice Program or anything related to veterans, at least recently. If you liked our content today, please hit subscribe if you haven't already, hit the like button, and leave a comment if you have any questions. Thank you very much, and have a good day.